Okay, time to take a quick look at what's grabbing headlines here in France, and I'm joined in the studio by Florence Villeminot.
Hi, Rochelle.
Hi, Flo. Lots of papers focusing on the situation in Iraq. For the past few days, Iraqi and Kurdish troops have been advancing on the Islamic State stronghold of Mosul. What more can you tell us there?
Well, Le Croix, the Catholic paper, has a special report from the front line. It says that Iraqi and Kurdish soldiers, you can see them, are at the doors of Mosul. You can see them getting ready there for that final battle. That's what La Croix says. Now, Le Figaro reports on what's happening inside Mosul, where Islamic State militants are getting ready for what Le Figaro calls the mother of all battles today. So you can get more details in Le Figaro that says that ISIS has vowed to hold on until the very bitter end. Militants are ready to die for the Iraqi capital of their caliphate, and they have transformed the city into a fortress. And according to Le Figaro, they're holding the population. Keep in mind, it's a big population, 1.5 million people, and they're holding them hostage, according to Le Figaro.
Well, let's stay with the Le Figaro, and they're focusing on the people who have managed to escape the city, risking their lives to do so.
That's right. You just got a sneak peek there at the front page of Le Figaro that talks about these survivors from Mosul. They describe how their city was really turned into a living hell by ISIS militants. Now, those that have managed to escape, and you can see some of them hopping over a wall there, they say that ISIS has turned civilians into human shields. And Le Figaro is outraged about this in their editorial today. You can see they're talking about l'arme des lâches. Using civilians as human shields is cowardly, according to Le Figaro. Now, what's ironic, if you can talk about irony, is the fact that ISIS militants could be the next to try to escape the city. And La Croix, if we go back to that paper, wonders what will happen to these ISIS militants as they try to flee Mosul as it's taken over by Iraqi and Kurdish soldiers. They could be chased all the way to Raqqa in Syria, according to La Croix. That's ISIS's stronghold there. La Croix reports that a military operation could be launched there before the end of the week. And in fact, La Croix hopes that that will happen so that ISIS will finally be defeated. You can see that map there explaining just what might happen to the militants that are inside Mosul.
Okay, well, meanwhile, the European Parliament has decided to award the Sakharov Prize, it's the top human rights award, to two Iraqi Yazidi women who were held as sex slaves by the Islamic State, and they now campaign for human rights.
That's right. Now, many papers are paying tribute to these two women today. La Croix, in its editorial, calls them the faces of war. They represent really much more than just what's happening to the Yazidi. They really represent what's happening to the whole region. So Nadia Murad and Lamia Haj Bashar, they had the force to escape, according to La Croix, but we must remember that thousands of others are still being held.
There.
Absolutely, still being held captive. Now, La Croix says they are really the victory over ISIS's terrifying and totalitarian vision of how the world should be. It's a victory over that. But they really incarnate much more than that. They incarnate the whole urgency of finding peace in the region.
Okay. Well, moving on to another big story here in France, the dismantling of the so-called jungle camp in Calais.
That's right. Now, if we take a look at the front page of Le Monde today, you can see they're talking about in the ashes of Calais, the remains of the camp there were burnt to the ground. You can see the aftermath there. Now, local authorities in Calais say it's mission accomplished. There are no more migrants in the camp. But Libération is a little bit more skeptical of what's being deemed a success here. You can see in this editorial here, they say, look, you can destroy the camp, but you can't change the fact that the region is just 40 kilometers from Britain. And so Libé predicts that migrants are going to continue going to the region. And in fact, it has a very interesting quote from one of the migrants in the camp. One of the migrants from Libya says that I lived there for 3.5 months. Despite how hard it was to live there, it became the place of our dreams. The police brutality that we endured was nothing compared to what we lived back at home in Libya and what we endured to cross the Mediterranean.
Wow, okay. Well, lots of papers are focusing on the relocation of the some 8,000 migrants in 150 welcome centres across France.
That's right. You just saw that map of France there. Let's take a look at that again. That's a cartoon by Willem in Libération today. You can see France has been turned into this maze, this very complicated maze. It's wondering just how they're going to get to their destination. And you can see the title there is The Jungle. So it seems like the jungle camp is closed, and it means that the whole of France has become a jungle.
Well, some towns have welcomed the migrants with open arms, but others have had a much more chilled welcome.
That's right. If we take a look at Le Figaro, they're reporting how some towns, particularly in the south, have been quite chill or hostile, really, with respect to the arrival of these migrants. Now, some have been very hostile online. The local branch of the national broadcaster France 3, for instance, put a report on the arrival of migrants in the town of Toulouse, the southern town of Toulouse. Many people took to social media to comment about this, sometimes having very racist comments. And France 3 was outraged by this. They actually posted on their Facebook page that they were outraged by these racist comments. They were disgusted by these comments. You can read about it more in Rue 89. It says that, look, France 3 said, we respect the freedom of expression, but this is disgusting. And you can see L'Obs and Rue 89 say this was a very classy thing of France 3 to do. They applaud them for calling these people out for their racism.
Okay, Flo, thank you very much for that. That was Florence Villeminot.